I knew something was rotting the minute she replaced the founder's memorial plaque with a neon sign that read "Innovate or Die." I stood there, half a coffee in my hand, watching two interns struggle to hang the damn thing while she barked orders from her treadmill desk, barefoot, because shoes block synergy. The same office where Robert Langford, the man who built this company from scratch, used to pace during product crises, now smelled like kombucha and cruelty. Even had the mahogany conference table repainted pink. 12 years. That's how long I'd been at Langford Systems. Joined when we had 30 employees and a budget that couldn't cover catered lunches, let alone ping-pong tables and a VR nap room. I was Robert's right hand, his fixer, his firewall. While he dreamed in code and sketched features on napkins at 3 a.m., I made sure the bills got paid, the lawsuits got dodged, and the wolves stayed at the gate. He once called me the human version of an immune system. I wore that like armor. Now he was dead, stroke, quick, brutal. He didn't even get to finish his farewell email. I found it in his drafts. It said, "Trust her. She'll know what to do." I like to think he meant me. But the board didn't, or maybe they did and chickened out. Instead, they handed the crown to his daughter, Cassandra, a woman whose only prior leadership experience involved organizing silent yoga retreats and running a Pinterest blog about wellness-driven capitalism. Within 2 weeks, she'd fired 4 VPs, brought in a brand storyteller named Flint who wore mesh shirts, and replaced our CRM with some blockchain abomination called Gravita's Hub. She didn't just step into the role. She kicked down the damn door and screamed, "I own this now," like succession was a TikTok challenge. And look, I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I leave? Why didn't I walk the moment she showed up in that $800 beige jumpsuit and started calling employees human capital? I stayed because I knew something she didn't. Something she never bothered to read. And before we go further, I'm gonna drop something real on you. If you've made it this far, and you like stories where karma puts on heels and walks into the boardroom like she owns the damn place, do me a solid. Tap that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers, and 95% of y'all are listening like it's a free podcast at a dentist's office. Help me out, will ya? Anyway, Cassandra strutted into my life like she was auditioning for an HBO reboot of Succession, but with worse lighting. She renamed our flagship product Zenth OS because it sounded mystical, then cut support for our legacy users, some of whom had been with us since the first version. I watched her sip matcha while telling our head of compliance that rules are suggestions in the age of disruption. She ran layoffs through a Slack bot. She announced them during her birthday party. And through it all, I kept my head down, smiling that polite, razor-blade smile I'd learned in corporate war zones. Let her believe she'd won, that she'd uprooted the old guard and could bulldoze everything Robert built with her agile culture pods and PowerPoint decks with GIFs. But every time she flashed that teeth-whitened grin and called me old school, I thought about Clause 17.2, the clause she never read, the clause no one remembered existed, the clause her father added the night he called me from the ICU, voice weak but sharp as ever, and said, "You're the lock. She's the toddler. Don't let her burn the house down." So I waited. I watched. I let her dance. And when she finally fired me, I didn't even flinch. "Let's be honest," Cassandra said, balancing a lavender latte in one hand and a clicker in the other. "This company has clung to dead weight for too long. And nothing says legacy bloat quite like a COO who still uses Excel." There were 23 of us in the executive boardroom, 24 if you counted Flint's therapy pug, which she insisted on bringing for morale. I sat 3 seats from the head of the table, same place I'd occupied for over a decade. Across from me, Marcus, our CFO, blinked slowly, like maybe he was watching a car crash he couldn't look away from. "Donna," Cassandra said, turning toward me with a smile dipped in poison, "your services are no longer aligned with our vision. We're sunsetting your position effective immediately. We've already revoked your keycard. Oh, and security has your box ready." She clicked the slide behind her. It was a stock image of a woman on a mountaintop with the word release in big pink letters. Silence. The kind of silence that gets remembered in memoirs. I didn't say a word, didn't ask for an explanation or dignity or a second to collect my thoughts. I reached for my notebook, closed it neatly, stood up so slowly the leather of my chair gave a little sigh. "Best of luck," I said, voice smooth like church glass, "to all of you." Even as I walked out, I heard Flint mutter, "Damn, Ice Queen." But beneath my blazer, under the calm exterior I'd cultivated in boardrooms and budget crises, my chest burned like acid. 12 years. Gone with a slideshow and a vegan latte. I rode the elevator down alone, eyes fixed on the mirrored doors, watching my own face try not to flinch. Cassandra wanted a reaction. She wanted tears or shouting or some HR meltdown she could quote in her podcast. She got nothing. Because what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was this. Buried in my original employment contract, under a sea of corporate legalese and dusty addendums, was a clause. Clause 17.2, drafted late one night in Robert Langford's office over a bottle of scotch, and the last dying breaths of a man who knew his daughter would one day try to auction off his life's work. It read, in the event of any proposed sale, merger, or acquisition, final approval must be obtained from the Chief Operating Officer, defined herein as Donna Lee, regardless of employment status, prior to execution. This clause remains binding for the duration of her natural life, or until the company ceases operations entirely. Veto power. Silent, nuclear binding. Robert had trusted me to be the final firewall, the dead man's kill switch, and Cassandra had just fired me, not knowing she'd handed me a detonator. As I stepped out into the cold January air, box in hand, I felt something close to amusement for the first time in weeks. Not joy, not peace, but a flicker of wicked possibility. Let her dance in her delusion. Let her sign deals and take meetings and fantasize about stock options and flashy exits. Because when the first offer landed on her desk, they'd come knocking for one more signature. Mine. The first offer came in 6 days after my firing. Blazewell Capital. That name alone should have set off every alarm in the building. Their business model was basically corporate taxidermy. Gut the culture, bleach the numbers, prop up the corpse for resale. Cassandra practically wet herself during the Zoom pitch. I heard later she called them visionary disruptors and said their proposal radiated alpha. I sat at my kitchen table with a whiskey neat and the PDF of the pitch deck forwarded anonymously from Marcus, who hadn't spoken to me since I walked out. He didn't include a message. Just the file, titled Project Phoenix NDA. That was her code name for the sale, Phoenix. Rising from the ashes of competence. Apparently, she was moving fast, too fast. Most CEOs play coy, flirt with bidders, act hard to get. Cassandra threw open the company kimono and rolled out a red carpet. She'd already sent over user data, internal projections, even Robert's old product roadmap. Clause 17.2 started itching like a loaded gun tucked under my coat. I could have fired it then, could have scrawled no across a legal pad and sent it couriered in triple-sealed envelopes. But Cassandra wanted to dance. I'd let her build the stage. A direct veto now would have looked petty, emotional, like a disgruntled ex-employee lashing out. No, the move had to come later, when she was fully exposed. When she'd committed to her lies and looped the board in, fully convinced I was roadkill. So I waited. And while I waited, I moved. First call was to Belinda, her old VP of People, who Cassandra forced out and replaced with a 28-year-old influencer who listed manifesting retention as a skill on her resume. Belinda still had her files. Exit interviews, culture assessments, Cassandra's infamous Fun Employment Fridays policy, where she encouraged older employees to quit if they didn't vibe with her vibe. Second call was to Gary in legal. Not his real name, obviously, knew about Clause 17.2. He was the one who helped Robert draft it. He told me Cassandra hadn't even requested my contract from archives. She'd been too busy rebranding the company's Slack emojis. Third was to Diane, our PR director from the Golden Days. She now worked with an independent crisis management firm. Keep me posted, she said, and when it's time to light the match, I'll bring marshmallows. I created a private folder, labeled Cassandra's Legacy, and started collecting. Not rumors, not bitterness, receipts. PDF after PDF of violations, DMs, leaks, and a leaked group chat where Cassandra called the dev team tech peasants. And through it all, I smiled. Took long walks. Baked banana bread I didn't eat. Watched the news and waited for her name to show up in the business columns like she always dreamed. Because Cassandra wasn't trying to run the company. She was trying to cash it out like a scratch-off ticket. Her end game was a sale and a TED talk. And once those wires were set, once her intentions were stapled to the boardroom walls, I'd be ready to flip the switch. Let her hang herself. I was just here to tie the knots. The night Robert added the clause, we were the last two left in the building. It was past midnight. The cleaning crew had gone home. The lights in the hallway were on motion sensors. We were running on espresso shots and panic. He'd just gotten the second MRI results. Stage 4, glioblastoma. The kind of diagnosis that doesn't end with a press release. It ends with people pretending they weren't crying in the stairwell. He looked smaller that night, still sharp as hell, but like someone had turned down the saturation on him. He sat across from me in his glass-walled office, sleeves rolled up, hair wild, eyes fixed on the old Langford Systems mission statement etched on the wall. Build what matters, protect what lasts. I'm not afraid to die, he said like it was a product update, but I'm afraid she'll kill what I built. I didn't have to ask who she was. She thinks this company is a brand, he said. It's not. It's a goddamn covenant. Every person in this building gave me years of their life. Hell, you gave me all of yours. I said nothing. Just let the silence stretch like a ligament, aching but necessary. He pushed a manila folder across the desk. I want you to have this. I want you to be the wall. I opened it. The clause was already written. Veto authority, absolute, irrevocable, not as an employee, but as a failsafe. I don't trust the board. I don't trust Cassandra. Hell, I barely trust myself anymore. He smiled then, crooked and tired. But I trust you. You're the only person I've ever known who says no to power when it's wrong. He paused, added, and you're also the only one she'll never see coming. We signed it right there on his desk, with a Mont Blanc pen he'd won in a bet against the CTO. He added a video too, just a short message, barely a minute long, saved to a flash drive. His voice cracked near the end when he said, if you're watching this, Donna, you know what to do. That flashback hit me like a freight train the morning I met with my attorney, Ellis. We sat across from each other in his dim downtown office, walls lined with casebooks and the smell of burnt coffee and moral ambiguity. He read through the original contract, nodding slowly. Still valid, he confirmed, ironclad, no expiration. And yep, Cassandra never pulled the employment archive. Amateur hour. She thinks I'm out, I said quietly. She's not the only one. He looked up. You planning to shoot now or wait? Wait, I said. She's not done damning herself. Ellis smiled. That's the Donna I remember, surgical. On the drive home, I turned off the radio. Just me, the hum of the tires, and Robert's voice echoing in my skull. Build what matters, protect what lasts. This wasn't about revenge, not anymore. This was about the engineers she'd laid off while hiring influencers. About the single mother in HR who got pushed into an early wellness exit. About the founder who trusted me to guard his life's work from his own blood. Cassandra was a child with matches, and I was the fireproof vault she hadn't noticed was still sealed. The storm was coming. I wasn't going to stop it. I was going to aim it. Cassandra strutted into the Thursday board meeting like she'd just won a reality show. White blazer, gold heels, iPad in hand, and that sugar-slick grin she wore when she thought the universe owed her a standing ovation. Blazewell's on board, she said, practically vibrating with glee. Full acquisition. 180 million. They want us bad. Flint clapped like a toddler seeing fireworks. Marcus rubbed his temples. The others stared in polite horror, but no one dared interrupt her TED talk. Phase out in 12 months. Total leadership restructure. Bonuses for all C-suite. Options for board members. And me? She placed a manicured hand on her chest. I stay on as creative visionary. Not CEO, creative visionary. She was launching a makeup line. She tapped her iPad and beamed. Legal just needs to process the paperwork. Signatures, compliance stuff. We're in the final lap. But the lap ended abruptly when Erica from legal coughed into the silence. Cassandra? She didn't like interruptions. Her smile twitched. Yes, there's one issue. The COO signature. Cassandra blinked. There is no COO, I fired her. Yes, but per the contract, the sale must be co-signed by the COO, or more specifically, by Donna Lee. That's when the silence turned predatory. Cassandra laughed, not politely, not nervously. A sharp, nasal bark that bounced off the glass walls like a fire alarm. She's gone, null and void. That contract's dead in the water. Erica didn't laugh. Not according to Clause 17.2. It's a special provision. Binding, irrevocable, not contingent on employment status. Still holds veto power. Her gold heels stopped tapping. That afternoon, I was sipping tea chamomile for the optics when I got the first panicked email from legal. Subject line, urgent inquiry, contractual clarification. 10 minutes later, Cassandra herself texted me. No greeting, no emoji, just, you're not actually going to block this, are you? I let her marinate for a few hours. Then I sent her one sentence. Simple, surgical. See Clause 17.2. I'm still in play. No signature, no regards, just the text equivalent of a trapdoor creaking open. For a woman who lived on Instagram and keywords like manifest, Cassandra did not know how to handle silence. She sent 5 follow-ups, increasingly frantic. 1 all caps. I didn't respond. But I did CC Erica from legal on my final note. All sale documents submitted without my co-signature will be legally void. Please proceed accordingly. The next morning, I woke up to a leaked memo in my inbox from someone in finance. Cassandra had called an emergency meeting with her new vision pod to discuss alternative pathways to spiritual buy-in. Translation: she was losing it, and I hadn't even opened the binder yet. Cassandra's first move was textbook arrogance. She tried to rewrite the bylaws. She called a closed-door meeting with legal and governance, brought in some shady consultant named Rafe, who wore loafers without socks, and said things like, "Let's flex the loopholes." Together, they proposed something called a sunset clause, addendum to quietly kill clause, 17.2 without, actually admitting it existed in the first place. But the bylaws were locked. Any amendment required full board approval and unanimous general counsel sign-off. Cassandra's legal blitzkrieg ran face first into Erica. Had been quiet, but had the spine of a stone lion. Erica refused twice, so Cassandra pivoted. She tried charm, left me a voicemail all saccharine and pained like she was acting in a student film. "Donna, hey, I think this clause thing has just been misinterpreted. I'd love to, get lunch and align on energy. We're both strong women, right? Let's not let old men's paperwork define us." When that didn't work, she tried money. Through a proxy, Flint, because of course she sent me a manila envelope via courier. No note, just a cashier's check for $400,000 and a printed NDA with a post-it that read, "Let's evolve." I didn't reply. I deposited the check into a separate account labeled Evidence Fund, and I scanned everything, date-stamped, backed up. Twice. Meanwhile, I started whispering. Not overtly, just small nudges. A forwarded email here, a clipped sentence there. Cassandra's pitch deck to Blazewell, which included proposed layoffs of 60% of staff. A Slack screenshot where she joked about replacing QA with ChatGPT because it's cheaper and doesn't cry during reviews. An audio clip, blurry but clear enough, of her telling Rafe, "Once we gut ops, we'll be lean and ready for resale." Think of it like intermittent fasting for corporations. I never said the word whistleblower. I didn't have to. By week 2, Marcus reached out. Subject line, "Can we talk?" His message was short. "This sale doesn't feel right. Can you share what you know?" Then came Dev, our infrastructure lead. "She's bleeding us dry. I don't know how long we can keep the servers stable with the hiring freeze." Is this really what Robert wanted? Even Belinda chimed in, sending me an archived spreadsheet, an ethics complaint Cassandra had buried. HR coordinator had reported being told to sex up internal branding for investor appeal. The coordinator was later terminated for culture misalignment. I organized it all, created a digital war room, encrypted and timestamped. Every document, message, and voice memo went into what I started calling the Cassandra Compendium. And still, I didn't fire the shot. Let her think I was bluffing. Let her feel the temperature rise without knowing where the flame lived. Cassandra kept smiling for the cameras, tweeting nonsense like #StartupQueen and hosting webinars about empowering disruption. But the cracks were showing. Her board briefings got shorter, her voice tighter, her eyes twitchier every time someone said due diligence. And the best part, she had no idea who was leaking. The company she thought she'd conquered was slipping out from under her, one carefully placed thread at a time. All I had to do was keep tugging. The board meeting was supposed to be routine, at least on the surface. Officially, it was a strategic realignment session to present Cassandra's final plan for company-wide restructuring and full autonomous authority. Unofficially, it was her coronation. She'd stacked the agenda, locked the guest list, and told security to deny anyone not explicitly cleared. Even had a barista stationed outside the conference room to elevate morale. There was oat milk, motivational posters, and a digital countdown timer ticking down to the vote. Cassandra entered 15 minutes late, of course, dressed in all white, like she was here to marry the company and bury it on the same damn day. "We stand at the edge of rebirth," she began, clicking to a PowerPoint slide titled "Quantum Disruption and Rebirth." Phase 1. "Today we reclaim our future without dead weight or outmoded contracts." The board nodded, not enthusiastically, but politely. A few avoided eye contact. Marcus was already checking his phone. That's when I walked in. No clearance, no invite, just the quiet click of the door and the hard clack of my heels across the tile. I didn't say a word, didn't look left or right. Just walked straight to the center of the room, dropped a thick white binder on the polished table, slid it across to Cassandra like a closing argument in a courtroom. She blinked. "You're not supposed to be here." I smiled. "I've heard that before." She reached for the binder with a forced smirk like she thought it was another bluff. She opened it. Page 1 was a printout of the NDA Flint tried to sneak through legal, annotated in red by her own compliance officer, declaring it coercive and unenforceable. Page 2, the cashier's check. Photocopied, labeled unauthorized offer. Page 3, Cassandra's Slack messages, complete with timestamps and internal employee ID tags. "Once we gut ops, we'll be lean. No one over 40 gets the brand anyway. Let's seduce the board with language. Sell the soul later." And then I plugged in the USB. The room went still as Robert's voice filled the space. "And if this message is being played, I'm probably dead. Which means I've failed to outlive my daughter's ambition." His chuckle was tired but clear. "You're hearing this because Donna Lee has activated her authority. I gave her this veto clause because I knew one day someone might mistake this company for a product. It's not, it's a promise to our employees, to our users, to the values we wrote in that garage. Honor them or get out. Silence. No clickers. No oat milk froth. No one moving." Cassandra's face froze in a way I'd never seen. Like her jaw wanted to argue, but her brain hadn't sent the script. Finally, one of the board members, Linda from governance, cleared her throat. "Is this real?" Marcus, bless him, stood up. "Yes. And if half of what's in that binder holds, we've got more than a veto issue. We've got a potential breach of fiduciary duty." Cassandra's eyes darted from face to face, panic creeping behind her lashes. This is an ambush. She's bitter. She's jealous. This is illegal." Folded my arms. "Then call your lawyer." "Oh wait, you've gone through 3 in 2 months. Must be hard keeping allies when you pay in gaslighting and wellness quotes." Her mask didn't just slip, it shattered. Right there in front of the board, Cassandra slammed the binder shut with both hands. "I built this damn company," she screamed, voice cracking. "I own it." Linda stood. "Actually, you inherited it. And now you may be in violation of the very structure your father created." Oh, it didn't happen. No one needed one. The room was already shifting. Alliances folding, momentum swinging, silence giving way to a quiet that sounded suspiciously like judgment. Cassandra stood frozen, clutching her iPad like a life raft, surrounded by the very legacy she tried to bury, rising from the floor like smoke. And me, I didn't even sit down. I just turned and walked out. Let them choke on the truth I'd been feeding them for weeks. The fire was lit. Let it burn. The withdrawal came less than 24 hours after the binder drop. Blazewell Capital issued a terse statement, barely 3 sentences long. "Due to unforeseen internal governance complications and material irregularities, we are suspending our acquisition of Langford Systems, effective immediately." No mention of Cassandra by name. No blame. But between the lines, it read like a restraining order served with a side of corporate bleach. She went ballistic. By noon, she'd fired Erica from legal, demoted Marcus pending review, and called an all-hands meeting that felt more like a hostage video than a morale booster. She stood in front of the company logo, now repainted with a sickly purple gradient, and declared, voice trembling, "This is a minor turbulence event. We remain aligned with visionary principles. Anyone questioning leadership is free to find the nearest exit." Flint stood behind her, nodding like a bobblehead on meth. She announced a press conference for the next morning. "To clarify our mission and reframe the narrative," she said. Translation: gaslight the planet before the truth hit the bloodstream. But it was too late. That night, from my kitchen, I composed one final email. Subject line: Transparency Matters. I sent it to the company-wide distro list, the board, our investors, the Langford Alumni Network, 5 carefully selected reporters known for loving corporate blood in the water. Attached were Cassandra's own private messages. Slack exports, DMs, audio files. Milk the brand dry before the boomers realize what's happening. HR's a formality. Culture is whatever looks good on Instagram. I'll be out in 2 years with a book deal and an apartment in Milan. And just for symmetry, I reattached Robert's video. The story exploded. TechCrunch called it Succession, Midwestern Edition. Wired ran with startup heiress implodes under weight of her own hashtags. The Verge posted a screenshot of her calling staff low-energy liabilities over a background of flames and crying emojis. Employees staged a walkout the next morning. Not dramatic, just orderly refusal. Whole teams working from home without explanation. Slack channels going dark. DevOps removing her admin access to the production servers. Cassandra panicked. She called the press conference anyway. Arrived in sunglasses and a white trench coat like she was testifying before Congress. "We are facing a coordinated smear campaign," she said, lips stiff, led by a disgruntled former employee with a vendetta and too much time on her hands. A reporter raised his hand. "Are you referring to Donna Lee, woman whose veto clause was legally binding and whose dismissal violated your father's original governance framework?" She didn't answer. She walked offstage, mid-sentence, and the live stream ended with a screen freeze of her looking slightly left, mouth half open, like a glitch in a dating sim. I sat on my porch that night, sipping a cider while the hashtags trended. #Langford Legacy, #Cassandra Gate, #Donna knows I didn't tweet. I didn't celebrate, just waited, because there was still one piece left to move, and she was about to find out what it looks like when the woman you fired writes your ending. The vote to remove Cassandra was unanimous. They didn't even call it a vote at first, just a closed executive decision. But everyone knew. She walked into the boardroom with her hair slicked back and a fresh PR handler in tow, and she walked out without a title, without a desk, without even a plan B. Board released a statement later that day. Effective immediately, Cassandra Langford has stepped down from her role as CEO of Langford Systems. Donna Lee will lead the interim executive committee while we reestablish strategic alignment in accordance with the founder's vision. Strategic alignment. That's what they called it. But what it really meant was, she was right. We screwed up. Fix it. Cassandra didn't speak to me. Didn't look at me. Not when they walked her past the development bullpen. Not when they revoked her building badge. Not even when she caught a glimpse of me through the glass of the conference room where it all began. She paused there, in the hallway, clutching a worn leather purse that clashed with her $1,000 blazer. Her expression wasn't angry. It wasn't even bitter. It was hollow. Like someone had finally shown her the ledger, and she realized she'd only been rich in delusion. Inside that conference room, I stood at the head of the table, where Robert used to stand during product launches and company anniversaries. The table was stacked with printed offers from Blazewell, from Huron Equity, from that sketchy shell firm in Dubai, deals that promised champagne exits and layoffs like rounding errors. I shredded them, one by one, no ceremony, no dramatics, just clean, deliberate cuts. Then I plugged in a flash drive. Screen lit up with a slideshow, Robert's notes, sketches, team photos from the first year. His original plan, an employee-owned restructure phased over 5 years. Equity for staff, voting shares. Long-term governance built not on ego but endurance. Gasps, nods, a few tears. This, I said, voice steady, was his dream. Not stock buyouts, not buzzwords, not Silicon Valley cosplay. Just a company that builds what matters and protects what lasts. Approved the plan in under 20 minutes. The next day, we announced the restructure. Staff would receive ownership tranches. Leadership roles would be earned, not inherited. Cassandra's name was quietly removed from the About page. She stood in the hallway again that morning, not trying to sneak in, just watching. I opened the door, said nothing. Just let her see it, me, standing where she laughed me out of the room. Her father's vision, alive and in motion. The company, humming back to life under hands that knew how to build, not bleed. She turned and walked away. No goodbye, no speech. Just the echo of heels fading down a hallway that no longer belonged to her. And I went back to work. Because empires built on ego crumble. But the ones built on trust, they rise. And I had a company to rebuild. You're the real stars of the corporate jungle. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, or I'll flick the switch on your old cubicle memories.